42 of the town law, the state of New York permits a town board to establish or reestablish the office of deputy supervisor by resolution of the town board. And whereas it is found and determined that the reestablishment of the office of deputy supervisor would be in the best interest of the town and would further the health, safety, and welfare of its residents. Now therefore be it resolved by the town board of the town of Southeast that the position of deputy supervisor of the town of Southeast is hereby reestablished, and be it further resolved that this resolution shall take effect January 1, 2011.
I second. Roll call vote, please, Ruth.
Discussion?
Sure.
I want to give a brief history about this. Every organization, whether it's the President of the United States or a Little League team, has a number two or someone trusted to assist the person in charge. The history of this town was that in December of '07, when the outgoing town board left, prior to Supervisor Wright's taking over, they abolished that position. That position has been in this town for over 50 years. The individual who abolished the position happened to be the deputy supervisor. In a purely political move, I want to now reinstate that position so we have a more responsible, better government, because by taking tools away from the supervisor, it makes his job more difficult. And they have complained that you are the chief financial officer, and they've actually taken away that portion of your salary, $10,000+ because they don't believe that you were able to do so. But as they continue to take away your tools, one of which is being the deputy supervisor, and most recently now they've also cut the salary of your secretary.
The town board secretary, that's right.
Which is a total embarrassment because whereas the town clerk would have 2 deputy town clerks, you now have a part-time secretary, and that's all the office of the supervisor contains now. So I will continue to fight to make sure this government is a functioning government and a responsible government, and that tools for the supervisor, whether it's you or someone else, is reestablished. And thus the reason why I have put this back out on the agenda for this, for at least we got a resolution on it. And the last portion of the history of this is that I've tried to get this on the agenda not once but twice, and it didn't even make the agenda because on a 3-2 vote, it was even taken off the agenda and not even discussed. So I appreciate that the town board majority has now allowed this resolution to come to be discussed tonight, and hopefully we can bring back some semblance of government here and make sure that it's performed properly. So there is what I have to say, and hopefully we can get a vote on this now.
I would like to comment on your comments there. First of all, the clerk's office does have part-time help, and they certainly would be able to help out on the days that your secretary is not available. And in the interest of saving money, we felt a part-time situation for the supervisor would be fine because he's only there part-time anyway. And the last thing I want to say,
order when you say things like that.
Thank you very
much.
It's
not a part-time position.
The last thing I'd like to say is that we do have a succession, which I've said multiple times, by seniority. If the supervisor is not available, I'm the next senior person. If I'm not available, Councilman Yee's the next senior person, and we get to Councilwoman Hudak, and of course beyond that we couldn't have a quorum, so we wouldn't be able to operate. So it's really not a problem. We have a line of succession. This is strictly a political move on the part of the 2 gentlemen to put one of their friends in. That's all it is. We have a succession. We have elected duly 5 people here, and one of us can take over that in case you're not available.
Unfortunately, this is not a student council meeting where you totally believe that being the deputy supervisor would just be running the meeting. And I understand that you have a succession because then you would run the meeting, which is fine. But what I'm looking for is a day-to-day function of the supervisor's office. And you made a strange statement that he's here part-time. That is totally untrue. And you need to make sure that the supervisor's office runs 100%. You've already taken that portion away by saying he's not here. He is here. And now you've taken away his secretary and made her a part-time position. You've taken away the deputy. You constantly take away these tools that just cause havoc and cause dissension on this town board, and I wish it would stop. That's the reason why we have put this back on the town agenda tonight.
I'd just like to say, you know, in the first instance, as far as Ms. Kalbfeld is concerned, I recently received an email from her. She has 2 titles: confidential secretary to Supervisor Michael Wrights and assistant to the Southeast Town Board. Now, it's clear that tonight we heard a lot about cutting. As you all know, we cut the town board, we cut salaries, we cut people. So as far as I know, the line that was given to the supervisor contains what would be his declared salary and Ms. Kalbfeld's salary. That would be as confidential secretary to Supervisor Michael Wrights. The town board, we cut all of our salaries, and I never thought for 1 second that the supervisor would be upset because we cut that line. Certainly, he had somebody who, as I recall, he actually gave a certificate
Such
to.
arrogance.
That he gave a certificate to for helping him out when Ms. Kalbfeld was out. So, I mean, there's people out there who can volunteer once again to help him. But I never for 1 second thought that there would be any problem, you know, particularly after we heard all about how he wants to have 0 tax increases, even though his budget wasn't a 0 tax increase. That being said, I also find it pretty interesting that he wants to reinstate what is, for all intents and purposes, an old guard proposition, that is of having a deputy supervisor. So,
No, it's not
you know, in one point, we have an old guard, you know, we don't like that old guard and we don't like that gravy train, but what I'm hearing tonight is we're going to have the old guard deputy supervisor concept back, and then
You said that.
the other one we had, and I did say it, and I'll say it again, simply because at this point, there is no necessity to have a deputy supervisor. We don't need another layer of government here, God knows.
So we need
You've
2
all been
deputy
very-
clerks, but
you've
no
all been-
deputy
Well,
supervisor.
the deputy clerks, according to what I think I learned in learning how to be a board member to the school, is by law, you need deputy clerks. You don't need a deputy supervisor by law. And once again, what we'll be doing is adding another layer. God knows, I don't know whether or not this deputy supervisor, how much would be paid. But, you know, when we just had a
For free.
tremendously great, well, that's what the supervisor says is free. Right now,
Yes, Councilman Yee's offered to do it for free.
This board has been functioning without a deputy supervisor, and, you know, I, for one, do not think we need a deputy supervisor, and quite frankly, I think that it adds another layer, which I think all of you out there are pretty much irritated by the dissension on
You
the
said
board in the
that.
first place. We don't need it. And I also can't believe how, I feel like I'm at a church revival when Supervisor Wrights keeps on commenting behind me, but that's okay. Maybe we need a church revival.
Everything's personal, right?
Yes.
Just 2 questions about the possibility of the deputy supervisor. I was wondering, how would it be assigned? Would it be appointed or voted on?
Appointed.
Appointed by the supervisor?
By New York State pursuant to New York State statute. And I don't recollect off the top of my head what the statute number is. Section 42 of the town law.
Section 42 of
Got
the
it,
town law.
thank you.
And would it have to be someone on the town board, or could it be someone outside the town board?
In theory, it could be someone on the town, anyone in the town, and that has been the pretext that the former town board used to take it away, and that this town board is going to use to defeat it tonight. But in fact, you know, their childish games are very tiresome, because in fact, this is a government we've just heard about tonight, a 10% property tax increase. We have a $14 million municipal budget, and we need succession. So there it is.
So the village of Brewster, in this community, we have a village called Brewster. They have a deputy mayor. Our surrounding towns have deputy supervisors. The county executive has a deputy county executive. You know, you can go right up the line, whether it's from a Little League team all the way to the President of the United States, like I said, except here in this particular town, we don't have that. And I just want to bring back some semblance of this community, and so we can at least be a good community. It's not about an old guard mentality. It's really, right.
Councilman Yee's offered to do it for free.
Right,
Greg?
and it depends, it's actually the supervisor's appointment, just as town law
Yeah.
states, so
All right.
it's not necessarily me, it could be anyone.
So if,
Greg has the floor. Thank you.
hypothetically, if it is done for free, if it passes, would this be a reoccurring thing that's always done for free, or would there eventually be a salary budgeted for this position?
In the past, for many years, for decades, as nearly as I can tell, it was a paid position. And again, Councilwoman Hudak made reference to the old guard. I would say the good old boys. The good old boys used it to designate the order of succession. They used it to pay each other and whatnot. All of that ended in 2007, after I was elected, and Councilman Yee and others, when they eliminated that position. So not only would it not be paid after being paid for decades, we could also limit it to persons who are on the town board, which I feel would be a sound practice.
Okay.
Actually, I just like to ask one thing, and I apologize, Greg. If the town attorney who has the section of the town law in front of him can tell me, when would a deputy supervisor act?
If I could read from the statute, it says, during the absence or inability to act of the supervisor or while the office of the supervisor is vacant, the deputy supervisor shall preside, when present, at the meetings of the town board and shall be vested with all the powers and may perform all the duties of the supervisor under this chapter or any other law, except he or she shall have no vote in his or her capacity as deputy supervisor on matters coming before the town board, and he shall not serve as a member of the county board of supervisors. Of course, we don't have that in our county. Any person, including a town officer, official, or employee, may be appointed deputy supervisor, provided that person appointed shall possess the same qualifications as an elective town officer. Before he shall perform any function as such, the deputy supervisor shall take and file constitutional oath of office.
Okay, thanks, Will.
And
Right.
just
Okay,
one,
can we wrap
You
it
can
up?
answer
as a one final one to wrap it up. Since Councilman Yee kind of alluded to this, the town board would know more about this, and you guys have kind of spoke to this point, but is the position of deputy supervisor more than just name? Is it actually necessary? In
Yes.
terms of what the town attorney just read about in the absence of the supervisor or the inability for him to perform his duties?
Yes, because the supervisor, whether it's Michael Wrights or the next town over, needs a trusted confidant next to him, whether it's handling a complex project like the Peach Lake Sewer District. If he's unable to attend one of those meetings because it has a conflicting meeting, he can now reach out to someone who has intricate details about it. And that individual, whether he's paid or not, acts as the supervisor of this town. Like New York City, the mayor has a number of deputy mayors to assist him with that. Yet this community doesn't have it. All I want to do is bring that back to this community, so we don't have this disrupted town board nonsense that continues. And will continue again.
That
If I
would
could
certainly
ju-
make it easier to make it
Greg,
less disruptive.
Can I answer some of your
Councilman
questions from
Cullen has
years
the floor.
past?
Councilman Cullen?
Michael?
Councilman Cullen has the floor. Councilman Cullen?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, the issue of deputy supervisor, some towns do have this position, some don't. We've been, since 2008, we haven't had it, and the town's been running fine. If Michael's not around, our town accountant, Ron Hunt, has the ability to sign checks. That's the most important thing. If, he's sick, God forbid, can't sign the paychecks.
Got to get the money out the door, right?
Whatever the reason is, that's one of the most important things. As for town government, Michael has as much power as I do as Dwight does. There's no special qualification, deputy supervisor. There's no reason really necessarily have the title. Dwight could be his confidant right now. He could go to meetings at Peach Lake. He's a town councilman. There's no, he doesn't need the special title as deputy supervisor because he doesn't have any more authority. The problem that I have with the appointment of deputy supervisor is that it doesn't necessarily have to be someone on the town board. It could be anyone who's a registered voter in the town of Southeast. So that's something I'm a little concerned about. I think it should be an elected official. I also, in this case, the supervisor saying he would appoint Councilman Yee.
you have a problem with
Councilman
that?
Gross is actually the next in succession because of seniority on the board. So that would be kind of a slight to him. But any one of us can go to any meeting, and represent the town. So you don't really necessarily need the title. I worked for the town of Eastchester for 21 years. They never had a deputy supervisor down there. And if the supervisor was absent, the senior council person would chair a meeting, and the votes were done by majority anyway. So, and this, after we just laid off 5 people, I can't see creating another position. We're trying to downsize government. Some people want to fire us all, they said, so, I don't think they'd be too happy with creating another position.
Even a volunteer position, Bob. Isn't that a little bit of a dissonance?
It's just a title,
So it's
Michael,
just
but there's no
interesting that-
reason for it.
But it's
That's
interesting,
what the town is.
Mr. Cullen, that you were in the police department, and your captain has an XO as opposed to the CO. So there's always a number 2 there, and it's odd that you would say that you don't want to hear in your own town, which you're an elected official. So I read this resolution, there's a second on it, we can vote on it now.
But I would like to answer something for Greg. Years ago,
Ruth, you haven't
non-
recognized by the floor.
Well, no,
Go
actually, she
ahead.
doesn't have to, come on,
Okay.
enough.
Years ago, just to answer a couple of questions, we did have someone who was appointed deputy supervisor.